Hey, David.
Hi, Sam.
How's it going?
Good, good. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
All right.
I've been seeing you play tennis down at the court quite a bit when I'm driving by.
Yeah, it's my thing. I love a friendly competition, where we're just going at it with someone, but it's just mostly just fun. It's all just fun.
Yeah. Would you say that's a pretty consistent space in your life where you get to experience play?
Yeah, and the thing about sort of having that individual competition sort of thing, I've always chosen things. I did judo when I was a young person, and which was very respectful with your partners, and it's like, you really appreciate, and then you go and you try to, wrestle them down. And I love the idea of it taking me to my edge. And in relationship, that can be really a powerful way to sense your own self and your own vitality. And I think that is a kind of a theme in a lot of what I do. Same thing with Aikido.
Sort of like the competition aspect, or just like the one-on-one interaction.
It's sort of like pitting each other against each other, but it's in something that you're in it together. Mm-hmm. So it's not the focus is not to beat the other person down. The focus is having the chance to be at your best with someone else. There's an opportunity to do that, which adds that element of fun.
Totally. You're pushing each other to be better in it.
I'm mostly pushing myself. It's really I love to win, but mostly I love to do my best, and that becomes the primary focus. But mostly the primary focus is play.
Yeah,
just have fun and play. And I think if I was going to pick anything, that would be probably the most powerful way to learn, is if you can have what you love to do feel like play.
Yeah, not to throw you a left hook here, but it was super fun when we were doing the boxing. That's another space where I feel like you get to experience that play and that healthy competition. And
yeah
that was a cool thing.
Yeah, and boxing is kind of like tennis, except it's a little less close and physical, but it has the same spirit. It's like, where's the openings and how can I do this?
Totally, the body awareness that you need to have.
Yeah, and if you don't pay attention, you get clobbered. So it really challenges me to be focused and to practice that.
Yeah.
In
some big ways and in some small ways, you've been a good example to me growing up of play, whether it's using our imagination to try to catch leprechauns in the garden, or like the wizard stories you used to tell us, or just like simple things like going bowling or dancing. What motivates you or has shaped you to be the playful person that you are?
Well, really just listening to you appreciate that. It touches me, and it's a good feeling. I think that, if I was looking what's primary in me, and I actually believe in primary in humanity underneath all the stuff. But anyways, for me, is mattering, contributing in good ways to each other. And, the joy of that. I just was really touched to hear about things I had completely forgotten about, the way we played together when you were much younger too. And that just matters. And it gives me a sense of joy and tenderness, which I love. So enjoying that is a great motivation. And maybe that, I think, as a kid, in looking at my grandkids and their tender hearts, I think I had that. And, underneath all my, strategies and conditioning as I've grown up, I think there's this little kid who just loves to play together.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely had an impact on me. That's for sure.
To hear.
We've already mentioned the tennis and the boxing,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm just curious if you want to know any other ways that you like to stay physically active day to day. Just, things like that.
Yeah. Well, my primary modes are if I get a few games of tennis in a week, or I walk. We live in a beautiful, natural environment. So I love to walk in the woods. I love to walk with friends, or sometimes alone, and walk on the beach, especially barefoot when it's warm and the tide's down.
Yeah.
And my wife is an avid walker too. So semi-regularly we'll walk together. But, and I go to Aikido once a week, which is barely enough to really feel like I'm doing it, but I love keeping myself in it a little bit. And then there's the grandkids who come, and then there's just general, doing work around the home and, the phicality of life.
Gardening and
we
occasionally chopping wood or
chop wood, haul water. We don't haul water much, but we do have the garden.
Yeah, chopping wood is quite the workout if you do it for a while.
Right now I got a full wood shed, so I feel pretty rich.
Heck yeah. As you think about how you've grown and changed over the years, what's something that you appreciate now about the vantage point you have in your current stage in life?
What a good question. I think about vantage a lot, as in everybody has a different vantage into the circle. And I genuinely love to learn from each vantage. I believe I operate that, by learning to listen and to get to know different people, the vantages of each of us, that we can see the bigger picture, more whole picture, and make choices that are more inclusive and lasting, generative over time. So that's a vantage I think I'm learning at my age. I'm just turning 70 this year. And there's just things that you learn that you can only learn through time and experience and practice. That is one of the advantages of living, a number of years, and so, and a lot of the things in life, I find they're not circular. It's not like, but we circle back to these basic relationship type things. And it's more of a spiral. Every time you visit them, you see them in a new way, because we're always changing. And again, that to have some, I care about that, and I love to learn, and especially about relationships and about myself and how to do it better. And so there's some experience that comes with this vantage, and learning how to offer that in a way that is, not telling people what they should do, but one that respects the circle. I had a moment yesterday, for example, with my 5-year-old grandson, which he taught me something beautiful. For example, he had some other relatives come by, and he wanted to show him this little car he has that you can get in and it'll drive. It's a little thing, toy, but it's kind of cool. And he had his cousin right there who's also 5. And he just got in and started to drive away, and she was like, wait. And I was like, Ruby, that's his name. Ruby, stop, let Eddie come in.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just driving. And to my eyes, it looked sort of mean because she was like, having so upset. And I said, and then I stopped it, he finally stopped and I said, Ruby, that was really hard. Kind of mean, to Eddie. And he was like, he sat with that for a while and then we talked and he's such a tender heart. And for me to even consider calling him mean was like, oh. And I thought about it after, and I said, what happened there? I talked to him. I got off my high horse. I said, how was that? Why? And he said, well, Ann and Pat came, and I wanted to show them my car, and then I was going to take her for a ride. And I said, oh, I didn't know that. It would have been great, if you could have communicated that to Eddie, but now I see. And then he went back to Eddie and he said, before I wasn't mean before, I really, and he explained it and, but at any rate, the lesson for me was these filters I have that see other people as this way or that way, even the most pure of heart people, to really, really look at how I judge other people and be careful. So that was from that side of that vantage over there. It's teaching me how to be more tender.
Wow. Yeah. That's a great story.
Yeah. It was yesterday.
Yeah. Speaking of recent stuff, we just had our 35-year anniversary party here at Wiseacres.
Yeah.
I'm curious just what that felt like, hitting that milestone.
I really feel it's an accomplishment, as in like, wow, that was not easy.
Yeah.
And I think about my wife, Judith, and I, and go, wow, that's 70 years of combined, like living in an intentional community. That's, we talk about experience. So I'm glad to have that experience. And there's just, I'm still learning so much. There's so much to learn. And what I mainly, this is just where I'm at now. I mean, 35 years, that was great. Nice to celebrate. And I'm really glad for it. And there's ebbs and flows in me of like excitement and difficulties.
Yeah.
I feel like
we're on a
on that spiral. And I'm spiraling back
right.
to, I'm spiraling back to noticing how my historical patterns still, they just show up and they can really shield me, which is a positive and a negative. Mostly the shielding part I don't need anymore. But then that shield could look like I was talking about my grandson. That's mean versus, it's not an affect, but a strategy I learned, that kind of judging. The things that kick in, the old habits, the things we've practiced so much. So to me, I'm like looking at this community and going, wow, everybody brings their familial patterns to the circle. And so it's, what it's like just with your own family, how stuff comes up. Well, this is like a whole bunch of different families and everybody's stuff coming up. It's harder than family, but wow, what a training ground, for those patterns to really be more visible, which brings them to choice. So when they come up, they can't be ignored so much. And so I choose, if it's not working for me, what do I want? What do I want to practice now? Who do I want to be? And, practice is like not just doing it, as in like, practicing tennis. It's like, it's how we learn.
Yeah.
Through repetition, conscious practice, really. And not only learning the movements, but learning the attitudes and the, changing. It's choosing who I want to be. So at 35 years, I'm still choosing who I want to be and articulating that and practicing it, which is really the basis of the work that I share, and sharing that kind of work with others.
Prepping for this episode, I was looking back through Wiseacre's website and just reflecting, and it's made me a lot more grateful just recently, because I feel like sometimes it's really easy to take for granted a lot of the aspects of community. And I was thinking about it. It's like you've lived in a house for so long that the pictures on all the walls just kind of blend in and they're not really there anymore. But then you have a visitor or something and they're admiring all of the wonderful things and you're like, this is just my house. But I kind of got a glimpse of that again, of like, wow, yeah, it is really special, being able to grow up in community. And yeah, just not everybody gets that.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it is. It's like I mean, we're together more than we are with my birth family. I see you more than I see my nieces and nephews. So I've known you, like your whole life, essentially.
Almost 18 years.
18 years,
like that,
yeah. So yeah, it has a lot of qualities like family, and I'm glad you're here too.
Me too.
Yeah, and it's cool to see it through other people's eyes, because you do. It's sort of like this is the water the air, what you breathe and where you swim, and it's like, but to see it through other eyes, it's like it's a really unusual thing to to live in a place where community is a conscious intention.
Yeah. It's really special. Like, I loved the analogy in your book that you mentioned, like creating a community is almost like replanting a deforested area where you've got, you put in the foundation sort of the trees, and then over time a sort of ecosystem grows out of it. And it got me thinking, like, I'm curious, because of this place where Wiseacres is, it's such a unique place and such a beautiful place, being able to live here in the woods, what it was like, sort of the initial deciding where to start a community, and like how you came across this particular place.
Well, originally it was a group of people getting together. Some people came, some left. It was like about a year of people hanging out and having this idea about community. I came a little later into that initial group, and there were only a couple of households from that original group that continued into when land was found for the idea, which was here in Indianola. Then it's sort of like when the rubber hit the road, then a bunch of us started to come in, and we bought the land together and developed it. But I remember coming to see the raw land and going, this looks okay, But personally, I wasn't one of the people who found the land.
Gotcha.
But I was there when we were purchasing it there. And originally it was a group of 8 families, and pretty dedicated and all very different.
Yeah, living in community, and again, this physical place being a big part of what's helped me feel more belonging in the world. And I think that's something that's missing from a lot of people's lives. They don't have that sense of place and that sense of family around. And one other thing that's helped me feel a lot more of that belonging, especially in the community, is participating in like the sweat lodge ceremonies and in the men's work that is around here. I know you've been pretty involved in that work for a while. I mean, I have memories even of when I was growing up, you leading the young men's group and like building a teepee and doing fun things like that. I'm curious what role men's work, and particularly like the initiatory work, plays in your life.
Well, again, I have to give credit to where it's due. I came into that after several very incredible men. Daniel Deerdorf, who's gone now, and Jeffrey Bodoni, and Ben Dennis, and a couple other men basically got together and it had to do with my older son and his friends. There was a time where there was these men who had been very involved in men's work at that time. And I'm going back 25 years, or more than that, actually, more like 35 or even 40 years. And this initiatory work, it came out of it, where it was 8 months or so of working, the older men being with the younger men, and a lot of out in the woods, sweat lodges, and we have the Native American community, Steve Old Coyote in particular, who also just passed recently, and with the sweat lodges and the initiatory work, Hamblacia, it's called, the Lakota word, it was very respectfully cared for, and the traditions, there was a large community of people who came together to create that, so the young men could have this rite of passage. And then, as that kept going, iterations, then also the women, and then the younger women, and it's been going on now for about 25 years, those iterations, of which, now you've been a part of. But I came into it and in my 40s, and I went up on the hill like the young men. So, the older men, who were not much older than me, put me up on the hill, and other men. And eventually we also led some of those iterations. So I was a part of a larger community reclaiming some really important rites of passage, that our culture is very devoid of generally. So my hat is off to those people who had the courage and the wherewithal to reclaim some of that.
Yeah, I feel really connected to it. Just even just the sweat lodge ceremonies, I just know every time I like get inside one, it just feels like home. It feels like, okay, we're back here. Like we're settling into something that feels really familiar in some ways, or just really right. Yeah. And like looking at like, the role it plays in sort of those threshold spaces of like growing up, and then you kind of have this other layer of belonging where you're like, okay, now you're more of a man now, and you're sort of accepted into it with all this like ritual, which makes it more real in some ways. And I think that's also something that a lot of people don't get.
Yeah, this is a part of a lot of elder traditions around the world, where the young people go to seek their vision, and then they come back and they share, what they have found, and they're received back as an adult. There's such a value to it. I can't even, we could spend a lot of time talking about that one, but no, I'm really grateful that I've been able to participate in some of that. And I have to say, it's some of the hardest work I've ever done. I mean, to really try to reclaim some of this ancient technology in, a system that is far from tribal.
Yeah.
and far from, what those rituals evolved out of. So the reclamation of the work was never perfect.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
And it was always more than what we thought it would be. So, which I guess is part of that work.
Yeah. There's that. And then, the same thing with the starting a community, right? It's just like trying to
my gosh, yes.
reclaim things, and it's hard. It's hard. It can be.
It is a reclaiming community. Well, it's my politic, first of all. It's something that is really dear to my heart. Living it, I had no clue what it really was. In starting it, it was a good idea. But living it for all these years, I get glimpses of what we've lost. It's like planting a new forest. We don't know what an ancient forest is by planting new forests, but we can learn over time so much, recognizing that there's so much that we're missing.
Yeah.
But it's good work. And I'm a great advocate for that.
Let's dig in. Change the topics.
Sure.
To your career as a goldsmith.
Okay. Yeah.
Thought we'd touch on that.
Yeah.
I understand something you've been doing for a long time. Kind of when I was looking through, all the things that you've done over the course of your career, it seems like you've been a goldsmith, longer than you've been in community and longer than Aikido. Does that sound about right?
Yep. Yep.
So I'm curious.
Goldsmithing is something, I touched on silversmith stuff in a class in high school. And I really liked it, to work with my hands and make something that people appreciated. And it was, there was just a lot of, good feeling about it. And so while I was at college and I worked for silversmiths and on the side, and then I got a full apprenticeship in Michigan with 3 generational goldsmiths, and had the opportunity to apprentice, kind of an old world apprenticeship. And I stayed there for years to become a journeyman. And, and then from then on, I'm basically, I started shops and showrooms and my own, small operations and custom work. But I love making things that have meaning for people. That's beautiful. Mostly things like wedding rings or, things that are really important for people. That's pretty much all I do these days. I used to have a shop and showroom, and I used to show things, but now one-on-one, what I love, which is that piece, which is people come in and I listen, and I'm sort of a medium. Oh, is this what you want? More like this? Yeah. Okay. Well, okay.
So it's all custom right now.
It's all custom, and it's creative, and it feeds into the work that I share, the somatic consensus work and the embodiment of NVC, Nonviolent Communication. Because to listen to someone, if someone comes in or a couple come in, they want wedding rings, for example, I have to listen creatively. I listen with my whole self to what they want, and I'm waiting for that inspiration in me to go, oh, is this what you're saying? And instead of guessing with words, it's more like I'll start sketching. Is this what you want? Oh, more like this. That's empathic listening. So with all this other work that I do, that is a piece that feeds the work I'm doing now as well. I'm still making jewelry sometimes. But the somatic work and the communication work, the empathic listening, that's something we need to reclaim as well. That listening to the life in ourselves, listening to the life around us and the environment around us and in each other. That is one of those skills that we are, the work, the practice is to reclaim listening to life. So I'm working on a piece of jewelry. I'm really trying to find the life in what they want and create that for them.
Yeah, I can totally see how it would apply in that situation. I'm curious about, I know like you do a lot of this work with somatics and also, the nonviolent communication.
Yeah.
And you have your company, Liminal Somatics. I'm curious specifically what Liminal Somatics is, what that name means to you, and then, what it's all about.
Well, we were just talking about the initiatory work. Well, liminal, as in Liminal Somatics, that's my company.
Right.
Liminal is the limon on a door is a threshold. So in our lives, we cross thresholds into new places. Every relationship's a mystery. As you step into it, I can know you. I've known you a long time, but if you're a universe unto yourself, how much do I really know about you? I know a lot, but not. It's so much more to learn. And same thing with myself. So as we cross these thresholds,
like in relationships,
in our lives, all these different, coming of age is not just when you're a kid coming into your adulthood. It's like I'm now growing. I'm approaching elderhood, and that's a whole nother threshold. And there's many through our lives, and so. How do you walk into the unknown? Because most of us are, naturally afraid of what we don't know. But then to step across a threshold, to walk into what you don't know, you have to really know what you do know. And you can know what you care about, what matters to you. Who you choose to be. And that's the somatic part, to feel what you care about, to feel what matters, to inhabit yourself so that as you, and when you do inhabit yourself, you can connect to the life all around you and the resources that are so available that when you walk into the unknown, and you cross those thresholds, you can be resourced and you can come back to center and listen to the life around you so you can make choices that are present. Because if you're afraid and contracted, then it's really hard to access your full intelligence.
So what I'm hearing is like liminal somatics is this idea, or it's this place where you can learn those skills to be able to, feel into what can support you as you're going through these thresholds.
To resource yourself.
Yeah.
As you go, and to enjoy the mystery of life more fully. So it's like, that's a lot of the work is really practices and articulating, verbal, physical, emotional, energetic, all those different realms. That's somatic work. Somatic is often thought of as just more the body, but it's all those things. And the things that bring those domains together is meaning. What do you care about? Because that will organize you. If you know what matters to you, which is not a simple question, because it's not a question that people ask us growing up in school. What do you love? What would you love to learn today? What do you, these are, what you think, that's always asked. But just like community and reclaiming our environment, reclaiming this part of us that we're, of our felt sense. What do you care about? What matters? But coming home to the body and all the resources and the wisdom it puts us in touch with.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to even describe, but one of the things is this. Can you imagine evolving as a species in nature where, we're in tribes, we're listening to each other, working that's a constant practice in relationships, very different than most of how we live today. But we're also living in concert with the nature around us and listening, really listening in ways that I don't think we can't comprehend. We've lost a lot of that.
That's another thing, like, we talk about the living in community and the men's work and or the initiatory work, and how those different places in my life have given me a greater sense of belonging. And I think another thing that, a lot of people are missing out on, but that when I've had breakthroughs with it has also helped me feel that belonging is really, coming home to the body. And that's what a lot of your work is.
And to whole self listening. I was thinking the theme that seems to run through all the things we're touching on, as general as it might sound, it's listening to life. As a goldsmith, I'm listening to the life in my customers and what is alive for them, and creatively listening to articulate for them what it is we could make. In relationship, it's the same thing. It's like listening to the life, what's alive for you underneath your strategies and how this in our arguments. And it's like, what is it that you care about? Is that life? And living in community is learning to expand that field of attention. It's a real stretch. So it's learning to expand this empathic listening field, to deepen into it, because that to me is the core of the work that I share. It's learning how to listen with your whole self. And in order to do that, you have to be centered and relaxed, which helps you be more aware and integrated. So it's sort of like a tuning fork. To listen to the life around you, you have to quiet yourself, be present. And that's really hard to do a lot of times because we're so, busy. I am. And so.
And you do a lot of trainings around the world related to this.
Yeah.
Are you traveling right now, or like what's on the plate right now?
Well, working on a few things, online and travel, because it's really great to be able to travel, to work and practice and train over time. If I go away for a training that's 9 days, that's wonderful. You get some, you can transmit some good stuff. But for lasting change, it takes practice over time.
And that's what some of the online stuff is.
Yeah, so they live together. A lot of my trainings, I have one coming up in January 5th. It's an 8-week training where we meet a couple times a week online. And I teach what I call a foundation, which is the basics of this work I call somatic consensus, which are also practices for embodying the work of Marshall Rosenberg called Nonviolent Communication. And so the foundations teach practices that you can work with each day, and there's discourse with it, and then there's that inform the practices. And we do it in a community of people, 30 people over time. And so we learn together, which is really accelerates the learning, and especially if it's enjoyable, which I hope it is. And that brings together the linguistics and the consciousness of nonviolent communication. I bring in the embodiment practice. How do you practice to embody something? A discipline, an art. And I take that from my Aikido training and my goldsmith training and community training, lifelong trainings, and bring that in.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, what I love to share in that work, practices for deepening relationships, that you can taste the value of community, that gets people interested and noticing, so that they want to continue practicing on their own.
Mm.
And so that's this 8-week training. But I also have an online ongoing training where there's several live trainings each month. There's an archive of past trainings, and it's a dojo, which is a place to wake up together. And so the idea is to train over time. So that's ongoing. And then I have some trips planned to Italy, Slovenia, China, Germany, and Turkey in the coming year. So, those all get translated as we go, and they're all 7 to 9 day trainings. And what I find is there's something I've done longer than any of those other arts, Aikido and goldsmithing and community, is I love to travel. Even as a kid, I used to get out and hitchhike and love to meet new people. And I was always curious how we're different and how we're the same. Yeah. And I'm still interested in that, that we're really, there's a common ground that I can, and this work touches on the common ground. I find it continues to resonate wherever I go, as we learn about each other's differences. So I'm pretty excited about that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The nonviolent communication part of what you do, a lot of that, as far as like finding common ground, it's like, communicating at a base level of needs and feelings. And, I dug into NVC for quite a bit just before this podcast because I was curious and I didn't know a whole lot about it. And yeah, I got really into it actually. And what I'm hearing a lot of it be about is sort of the sense of personal responsibility and, not making others responsible for how you feel, and talking about your own feelings as opposed to like pointing at others. Yeah. Separating judgment from your observation. And I think a lot of people, it's another thing that's missing in a lot of our culture. Cause I think, especially now when we're talking about like politics in the world and so much like what Marshall Rosenberg, who created nonviolent communication, talks about, it's like diagnosing other people as like, oh, this person's bad or terrible, or I'm the right one, or, it's just constant. And then even in like the mental health space, or just culture in general, this sort of emphasis on diagnosis and like trying to find the problem in things and then being able to blame the problem. Yeah. Those are a lot of the basic. NVC is really brilliant in naming the parts of our language that support hierarchies and domination and the things that are just a part of our, cultures, and shifting those things, becoming aware of those parts of our language that are just so normal that we don't even notice them. Yeah.
And then to bring those pieces to those types of communication, shifting them to ones that support more of a compassionate, collaborative, and generative way of communicating. And you're right. It is a lot of it is about being responsible for your own communication.
And I almost don't want to say responsible. Almost more feels like empowerment too, like.
Yeah, moving from the inside out. The language does that. And what I love to bring to that circle of global learners that do nonviolent communication, because these are really important skills, the languaging skills. And if they are laminated over all the history that lives in us, in our bodies, you could then what people will hear, if we're using these wonderful words, but it's not embodied, and our body is saying one thing and our words are saying another, people will get a sense of mistrust. That's what they're going to feel, because there's a double message. So the work that I bring, and this is why I travel, and why, one of my main audiences around the world are the people who are going, okay, how do I bring this languaging so that I can be it? In fact, the name of my book is called Becoming What You Need. We talk about needs being, that part of us that we all share, that common ground. Becoming kind, becoming understanding, these are all words that describe life. And so if life's infinite, these qualities of being can be something we could learn for the rest of our life. So how do you practice it as a lifelong practice versus a set of tools and a set of words? So what I love to bring is what I take from the Aikido, which is a life practice, or community, which is a lifelong learning, or somatics, which is lifelong learning, and going, how can we inform the practice of nonviolent communication so it becomes a life practice, a whole life practice, where you practice it everywhere.
Yeah, this idea, like in the nonviolent communication, Marshall talks about it as like there's the jackal self versus the giraffe self, and then you've mentioned in your book like the personal self versus the empathic self, and then I've typically thought about it in my own head versus like the many level, which is kind of like seeing us all as many and separate, versus like the meta level, which is kind of like everything's one thing, sort of thing.
Yeah, beautiful.
Or in internal family systems, which is another therapeutic practice I'm a super big fan of. They talk about it in terms of like internal parts, and then this idea of the self with a capital S, which is just kind of like this almost godlike presence that is watching over everything. And yeah, with all these ideas, it makes me really passionate about this idea of like, how can we connect these two pieces of ourselves together and bridge this gap internally and externally? And I feel like that's the work that needs to be done. And when you talk about your embodiment of nonviolent communication, it feels like that's a big part of it, is you're like bridging it into the body too.
Yeah.
Like our language with our felt sense as well.
Right. It's not that we, thinking over feeling or feeling over thinking. It's how do we pulse between them, because they are one. You can't really separate thinking and feeling, but we practice doing that so we can learn it better. We break it apart, but they are one. Everything you just described it's paradoxical.
Yeah, totally.
We think in terms of polarities, and it's actually one. It's both. So, the me and the big we, and self and greater self, these are all primary parts of all the, elder religions and cultures. So yeah, how do we navigate me and we? We. For me, how I approach it is like it's more of a pulse. So in a relationship, there's you and I, and I'm here, and let's say we're having a difficult conversation, I get triggered.
Mm-hmm.
It's really almost impossible to be empathic and inclusive when you are, when you're essentially contracted in emotional, historical pain.
Mm-hmm.
So you go to me and you center, remember who you are, remember what you care about, touch in,
Mm-hmm.
Come home to the body, come home to yourself and the ground you stand on. What is it that you care about?
Mm.
And remember your direction. Remember the qualities of being that you are committed to becoming more of. And when you start to, remember your heart and start to, gather yourself, center yourself, you can come back to me, then open to we.
Mm.
So they live together. It's almost impossible to be open, inclusive when you are contracted in emotional, in historical pain.
Mm-hmm.
They're opposite states of being.
Mm.
So a great deal of the work that I share is, coming back and really resourcing yourself. So there's a certain fullness that you can extend to others to include,
And a lot of this bridging the gap, and we'll just touch on it briefly.
Yeah.
Is through your work with Aikido.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was looking over kind of your story as far as how that bridged in with the nonviolent communication,
Mm-hmm.
Your discovery on key fields as like a way to use empathy,
Mm-hmm.
and to kind of, include and bridge that gap between one another.
Right.
Can you tell me kind of more about what that experience was like and just
that's again
how that
very
relates,
very. It was one of the more igniting moments, ignition that said, "Oh, I need to do this. Oh, I need to develop this. I need to share it." Was practicing Aikido. We talked about the practice is whole self listening, how to be present in the midst of conflict, because if you're present with someone and skillful enough so you can not get hurt and be present, relaxed, and inclusive, you can harmonize that intent, that what's coming at you. You can work with it with the lightest of touch, even non-physical, energetic, so that it can calm.
And just to clarify, just like maybe you'd give like a little explanation on what Aikido is, just for people who know,
No,
so that way they know that we're talking about. No, it's good.
No, I get you. Aikido.
I forget that too, because I'm
what is Aikido?
Yeah.
Aikido is it's a way. It literally translated as a way of harmony with nature, or a way of harmony with energy. Ki is energy or nature, or love. I don't know. These are all interchangeable words for me. And it's a martial art, but it's a healing art. It's an evolved martial art in that it is a way of staying present with who you're with. So if you're attacking me, if I'm competent, I can move off that line of attack in a way and enter in a way where I can take control of the situation, but it's and in a way that is about protecting you and me. It's based in loving protection for all. It's also a powerful martial art. So if you don't get the message and you keep attacking, I can also subdue you, hold you in a way which is, it keeps you from, again, hurting me and hurting yourself. And to calm your system, it is done with a healing touch. And it's more than that, because it's, there are just times you just have to do more than take control. You have to, so you do learn about how to strike and how to, sometimes that takes an awful lot to wake someone up. So that's a bit about Aikido. But the thing I practiced with Aikido is this ki field. And which is, I couldn't do it justice in a few minutes, but essentially it's like being present here inside and opening my attention. It's almost like a personal space. And I can imagine that personal space around me right now. And that's one thing, that's the me part.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can also imagine that field of attention slowly getting bigger in all directions. So we could imagine like a bubble or a sphere. It can be any shape. It's my imagination, but imagination is more than fantasy. Imagination is actually how we understand everything. So there's a power to it. But imagining this field and slowly allowing it to get bigger. And I know this person over here is safe, and I'm going to just, if I imagine it big enough to include him, that's a pretty big bubble. But I can be inside with him now. And although you can't see it, when I do that, do you notice anything, Sam?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely quality change. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
and I was trying it too.
I get you. I get it. It's like, okay, believe it or not, it's sort of, but it's by including you in that field of attention and care, I actually transmit my state of being.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're attacking me and I have the wherewithal to be able to include you in that field of listening and care,
mm-hmm.
what you're going to register, what's going to get transmitted is something in you is going to go, why am I fighting this person? He's listening and he's present and he's caring but that's lifelong practice. And I'm still a beginner. I've been doing it 50 some odd years, but it's endlessly cool and endlessly elusive. At any rate, when I started doing in nonviolent communication, we started talking about empathy.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, an empathic field, that's a key field. It's the same as in Aikido. And so I had all these basic practices I was learning and teaching for, at that point, a couple decades on how to work with an empathic field or a key field to open and listen skillfully. And there's just something in me that just said, I have to bring this to the NVC world because we talk about empathy, but what is it?
Yeah.
But to viscerally be able to train in a way where you can feel it, and a practice that you can really grab onto that's below the talking. It's a visceral listening, and there's so much you can receive and communicate energetically. So that's the piece that I bring to the NVC world, because Aikido is a whole life practice, and NVC is a whole life practice, and somatics is a whole life practice. They're corresponding places. So I take the best from each and mix and match in a way that what I've come up with are some pretty unique practices, unique to all those disciplines, because I've created what I call a foundation.
Looking at all these elements of the work that you do, whether it's the goldsmithing or the Aikido or the nonviolent communication, or the somatics or the community, all these different pieces, if you had to put it in a single sentence, what would you say is the thing that you most care about?
Well, what I love that I never get tired of, and that keeps giving, sort of my direction, it brings all those things into it. And it's developing and practicing ways to become who I want to be, really want to be, that are grounded in what matters to me, what I care about. And sharing practices with others so they can develop the practices for becoming who they want to be.
Mm.
And in this way, finding our voices in the world, in our relationships, and that to me is my activism right now for the world as I see it, to help people find their voices and actions that are grounded in what they care about, and putting that out into the world. And that's for the sake of you and future generations, as well as myself and the people around me. But I do think in those terms of beyond my life. That's what I love to share.
That's awesome. Yeah, I just want to say, researching this for this podcast, reading your book, and especially now having this conversation, I feel very fortunate to have you as a mentor and a friend in my life. So,
well, you're really special to me too, Sam. And I love your tender spirit. It's something I admire and hope to be more like.
Thank you. Anything else you want to leave the audience with?
Well, I feel like we've just begun the conversation, you know? So I welcome other ones.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.